Okay, I'm going to try reading. I might as well see this. Okay. There's a fireplace. You can get into it. Whoops. No, I don't want any of that yet. Suddenly there's a giant noise and you enter the bowels of the library. Okay. Now you're in the center of a volcano, I think, or the tower. Right, okay. So several things seem to be happening here. There is a... Oops. There is a bookshelf, and this is like the central core of written information in this game. And yet it is the passageway to the tower. So these books are the passageway to the tower. See which ones we can read. This is burnt. And it has like a bird? I don't know. Burnt. Everything's burnt, I suppose. Except for the ones that are obviously not. Like this. Nice. Okay. So this looks like the star Fisher. It's like a Vesica Pisces, or it's this kind of a... again, kind of vaginal. There's this mythological thing of entering into the womb of the goddess. Maybe. I have called this age Channelwood, and it is a very different world. Though it is exactly how I imagined it, it is still amazing to see it with my own eyes. Water covers this age as far as I can see, except for a small rocky island. Elsewhere, there are only trees. Okay, so water covers this age, except for a rocky island. In a dream interpretation sense, it's almost as if he's talking about Myst. Myst is all covered in water, it's surrounded by water, except for a little rocky island full of trees. It's as if, again, the Channelwood age, and this will come later in the game, but the Channelwood age is almost like a different kind of manifestation of Myst. So, elsewhere there are only trees which grow directly out of the water. Right. What else grows directly out of the water? The clock tower, which is surrounded by trees. So the tree, as in the mythological image of Yggdrasil, or the world tree, grows out of the pure oceanness of sort of divine everything, of the absolute. A myriad of thin wooden passageways are built just above the water and disappear into the forest. I assume they were built some time ago, for they appear aged. I am eager to discover more about this land and its people, but I have arrived here late and I must rest. I was awakened this morning by strange noises coming from a pathway adjacent to the one on which I had slept. I saw a group of monkey-like people heading in my direction. They had not seen me yet, and I did not feel threatened by their presence. Their response to me was one that I would have never expected. Okay. Again, let's interpret this as being your thoughts, right? So you are dreaming this, and this is a reflection of your impressions arriving at Myst. There is a lot of nature in it, and a lot of inundation of water. These two symbols seem to be the same, because the flood of water is like the flood of the unconscious surrounding the conscious, and nature is also the unconscious, because it is the non-human part of ourselves. Here we meet monkeys, monkey-like people, as if almost monkey-like people is a euphemism for saying human beings, right? Human beings are monkey-like people. And yet, of course, here we have a sort of dichotomy between the virtual and the real. It's as if here, whoever is writing this journal is having an encounter with human beings, with real human beings, not virtual human beings. There is a contact between the world of the imagination and the world of waking life, or the world of the video game and the world of the player, right? We, the player, are monkey-like people looking into this virtual world. After staring at me for a short time, they fell to their knees and began what appeared to be some sort of ceremonial worship. I tried to speak to them, but they did not understand my language. Instead, they indicated through enthusiastic hand motions that I was to follow them. As we walked, I began to notice that the waters below us were changing colors. Slowly, subtly, they would change from deep blue to muddy orange, then from muddy orange to beautifully clear. I was so intrigued by the water, I hardly noticed that we had arrived at a ladder. Interesting. Okay. Let's take this possibility. Here, the writer encounters a strange water. Like we did, we encountered a virtualized water. And this virtualized water was right next to a ladder, like a sort of Jacob's ladder kind of thing. Well, a staircase, right? And here again, the water and the unhumanness of the water leads up. Climbing the ladder led us to their village, which is about 10 meters above the water and can only be reached by rope ladders that stretch from the lower paths to the village level, approximately halfway up the grand trees. It is very interesting watching these people carry out their daily tasks. Even after watching them for hours, I did not understand exactly what they were doing. At sunset, they motioned for me to follow them. I followed the creatures to the doorway of an enormous hut. Strangely, once inside, I found the hut appeared even larger than it had from the outside. The walls were garnished with bright metals, and in the center of the hut sat the leader of these people. Interesting. There is a hut, there is a central hut, and when you enter it, it is bigger than you thought it would be. This is an archetype we have encountered again. The library is bigger than it seems because there is a secret passageway. It opens wider into a wider space than it would seem from the outside. The planetarium is symbolically bigger than it is because the sky is the starry sky which stretches out into infinity. So it is a dome which is larger than it seems. This is this whole theme, by the way, is explored in other in other Cyan games, right? In Riven, this sort of breakaway civilization also lives in a giant tree world, as if this return to our monkey roots is kind of a spiritual core of the human experience. And in Abduction, we also have life under a dome, where a giant tree powers up the dome, and the dome is bigger than it seems. The hut. The leader of these people, at least he appeared to be their leader, for he sat a meter off the floor in a thick throne. Guards surrounded the strong creature, who was dressed in many exotic, colorful fabrics. Next to the leader sat a very old human. At least to some extent he appears human. His hair, which was only on his face and head, was completely grey, almost white, and hung very long around his frail body. His thin head hung limply by an almost grotesque neck that could not hold its head up to look at me. But what a surprise! This creature could speak my language. Shortly thereafter I was given a bed with some hand motions that looked to be telling me to go to sleep. I look forward to learning more. We meet an old wise man, Atreus, symbolically for us, has fulfilled the same role, right? You meet Atreus in this mysterious hut, this dome, and he is sitting on a throne writing his book, writing the word, right? As I suspected, the ancient creature is a human, but he is old beyond his own reckoning and seems almost insane. However, the tree dwellers almost revere him as a god. Revere him. They are treating me now in the same fashion, which makes me feel very uncomfortable. It is almost impossible to understand this old man. His voice is feeble but wild. He has adopted much of the language of the tree dwellers. He himself told me he had not spoken our own tongue in ages. He attempted to explain to me the history of this place. The following is my best translation of what he has told me. Many years ago, the humans and tree dwellers lived together in this place, which was then a vast island. They interacted very little. The humans dwelt on the ground, and the tree dwellers lived high above the humans. Interesting. So, humanity was fused to the tree dwellers, but there has been a split that has cut them apart. There has been a fissure, there has been a cut that that has caused a fall. As if maybe the divine animal, the unconscious and the conscious were united. Occasionally, the island was disturbed by mysterious rumblings which happened randomly, some sort of tectonic or volcanic action, I suspect. A lot of, again, the symbol of the volcano, potentially kind of like Kundalini, right? Rising from below. The sometimes slight, sometimes heavy tremors would only last a short time. Then they would stop, allowing everything to return to normal. One day things changed. The rumbling began and grew quickly to unprecedented levels. Soon it became apparent that the entire island was sinking slowly into the ocean around them. Many of the humans died that day, but not before sacrificing themselves in order to stop the sinking of the island. The humans who lived through this catastrophe moved into the trees, where they gradually died out, maybe because they were unequipped for such an environment, but I am not sure. This is the story the old man communicated to me, although many details are very unclear in my mind. I am especially confused as to how the humans saved the island from completely sinking. In fact, I doubt the accuracy of that part of the story. Okay, so here's one thing. The island itself sinks into the water. The ship sinks into the water. The clock has sunk into the water. All of these things. The island must have stopped on its own. Yet the old man believes in the truth of the story as if he had been there. And the tree dwellers worship him, and apparently all humans, as if they were heroes or gods. The old man ended our conversation today with an event which I will never forget. He began gripping my hands tightly, murmuring something about rest and asleep. He then said, "We had expected you to come sooner." These actions filled me with a sort of immediate dread. With much effort, he stood to his feet. I tried to help, but he pushed me away with more force than I imagined. His frail body contained. Oh, more force than I imagined his frail body contained. The tree dwellers quietly surrounded him with very solemn faces. Then they kneeled before him. He walked to each and placed his hand on their heads. All the while he murmured words which I did not understand. Finally, he turned to me and smiled. Then he closed his eyes and walked out of the door and off of the narrow path, high in the trees. He murmured something about rest and asleep. We had expected you to come sooner. Okay, these are the first potential clues as to the dreamlike nature of the experience, right? This could be a dream, and it could be a dream in a Gnostic sense as well, that it is a virtual world that one is trying to awake from by pure gnosis, by pure knowledge, therefore reading, by learning what it is, remembering the situation you're in. The tree dwellers were silent. They began a procession down the nearest rope ladder. As I was descending, I saw several of them pick up the body. He had fallen onto a lower level of walkway, and they carried him away. Right, so he's killed himself. He closed his eyes and fell after talking about sleep. So he closed his eyes as if in sleep and died. The old man. He was laid down at the dead end of a short pier-like structure. Okay, we have landed in this game at the dead end of a short pier-like structure. We are this old man. We have died, symbolically, I'm willing to consider, and we lie down at the end of a pier, right? A ship, a vessel. It's interesting also that the island sinks down as the ship sinks down. I mean, in the same way that the ship sinks down. So it's like the ship and the island are the same thing, but the ship is a method of transportation and the island is something that is still, right? It's almost as if the ship here is not just a method of transportation, but it is something to carry you, in the same way that the island carries your weight, your existence. With the use of some potion, one of the tree creatures lit the pier on fire, and I watched as the flames engulfed him. As this strange funeral proceeded, the waters around the pier changed to dull green. This morning I awoke, finding it hard to even believe the previous evening's events. The water is a dull green for as far as I can see now. For some reason, the water no longer shifts color. As I wander throughout the pathways, the creatures watch me, curious to see what I will do next. They are constantly offering me strange objects of affection. I even found food outside the doorway to the room in which I had slept. This is a unique race of beings. I hope to learn their language soon, so that I may learn more about them, more from them. Change of ink color. I have lived on this world for 3 months off and on, and the tree dwellers have shown great hospitality. I am even beginning to learn bits of their language. I have decided to return home for an extended stay with my loving wife and my sons, and hopefully return with them. However, I am sure Catherine will once again refuse. I think this age would be a wonderful experience for them all, and I at least look forward to how Cirrus and Achenar will react to its curious inhabitants. Right, so this is clearly written by Atreus, right? I want to remember how this started. I have called this age Channelwood, and it is a very different world. Okay, so the first book on the shelf, at least the first book from the top left, is directly an account of Channelwood, placing a certain degree of importance on Channelwood. Whoops. Catherine is staying behind as expected. My sons have returned with me and they enjoy this age very much. They get along very well with the tree dwellers and are picking up their language surprisingly fast. I have no doubt that it will not be too long until they can speak with the tree dwellers much better than myself. I am leaving tomorrow to check on Osmoyan age? Huh. Cyrus has suggested that I allow him and his brother to stay. Though the idea unsettles me, I know the boys are growing up rapidly. The hospitality of these creatures is such that I could think of no better place to leave them alone for a short while, so I will consent to their request. I warned the boys not to take advantage of the respect the tree dwellers have for their ideas. They seem to understand my warning. I have faith they will follow it. Much to my dismay, upon arriving in Everdunes, I learned that Pran and her people are continuing to be menaced by the Shoktik. I fear for their survival and plan on returning to her shortly after checking on Cyrus and Achenar. Here. See Everdunes' journal for more information. After watching Cyrus and Achenar, I see they are handling things very well, and I think I can put to rest any fears about leaving them in Channelwood again, and for a little longer time. The tree dwellers seem slightly distressed that I am leaving, but are happy that Cyrus and Achenar are staying behind again. I have been gone for over 3 days, and have been to many different places. I had to tell Cyrus and Achenar about Pran's death today, and they were visibly shaken, although they only remembered her from their childhood. Catherine has suggested that it would be wise for Cyrus and Achenar to leave Channelwood for a while, and I have to agree. They will be returning with me when I leave again. It's interesting the turn of events that the journal suddenly takes. It suddenly centers on the children, and it centers on the children and Channelwood. The death of Pran makes them leave. I have told my sons that they will be returning with me in 2 days. They spent the entire night telling me of an adventure they experienced in my absence, and it was rather remarkable. It seems they constructed a boat with the creatures and traveled some ways out into the surrounding waters. I enjoy hearing them talk excitedly of their adventures, and am reminded of my own adventures as a child. I finally understand why the tree dwellers have been giving me their many inks and insisting I write with them. Looking through some of my past entries, I see now that the inks have changed from the black I thought they were to various different colors. I have shown some of the creatures my journal, and they laughed and howled. I did not know they had such a sense of humor. Even now, as I look through this very colorful journal, I cannot help but laugh myself. Okay, there is something about the colors, is that when the old man dies, the waters turn green. Here, after he becomes aware of the nature of color, suddenly the ink turns green, which is the color of death in association to the old man. We will be returning tomorrow, so my sons are with the creatures for the last night here. They have told me they would like to come to Channelwood again, and also asked if they can visit some other ages alone. Though I will have to think over their request, I believe they have proven to me that they are trustworthy and responsible. Catherine will also have to help me decide whether they are ready for travel alone. For now I must give my farewells to the creatures, for I do not know how long it will be until I visit this age again. Future Bridge. Future Bridge. Hut. Nice, okay. So this is the end of the journal. The end of the journal is in green, which is the color of death. It represents the separation between the children and the father. And the old man in Channelwood dies, leaving Atreus alone. So the old man is like a father symbol. The old man dies. There is a coming of age. Atreus must stand on his own. The father has died. Here, Cirrus and Achenar are separating. They are reaching maturity. So the color green. Future bridge. The whole journal is green. It is decorated with a star and this sort of whatever this is. Everything's burnt. Everything's burnt. Everything's burnt because, after all, this is right next to... Right, so behind here is the fireplace. So the bookshelf and the fireplace are opposite to each other, as if mirroring each other. Fire and books. Books burnt. Burning yourself as a passageway. This becomes a passageway. If I remember correctly, this becomes a passageway to Atreus. This becomes a passageway to the tower. The old man in Channelwood Age is burned in a strange funeral. Here, burning yourself symbolically takes you to the old man, to Atreus. Okay, well, I'll leave it here again and continue next time. Thanks for watching.